I finally found you, human, the alien woman who was my childhood sweetheart. Alarms tore through my ship before I even opened my eyes. Red light flooded the cabin. My hands moved before my mind caught up, slapping the console, silencing the blaring warning, my heart hammering against my ribs. A distress signal. Not human. The frequency pattern was wrong. Twisted. Like nothing my scanners had ever logged before. My name is Daniel Cross, and I run salvage routes through the old debris fields near the border. Places most pilots avoid because the space out there still remembers old wars. I should have ignored that signal. Every rule I had ever learned told me to ignore it. I did not ignore it. I turned my ship toward the source, engines groaning under the sudden change in course, and within minutes I saw it. A wrecked vessel, alien in shape, its hull scarred and blackened, drifting silently against a field of broken stars. No lights, no response to my hails, just silence, and that pulsing distress signal, calling out like a heartbeat refusing to stop. Every instinct told me to turn back, but something else, something I could not name, pulled me forward. I docked my ship against the wreck, sealed the connection, and stepped through the airlock with my light raised. The corridor beyond was cold, lit only by a faint blue glow along the walls, humming with a strange kind of life. My boots echoed against the metal floor as I moved deeper, past broken panels and shattered glass, my breath fogging in front of me. Then I heard it, a voice. Soft, strained, but unmistakably alive. I ran toward the sound and found her curled against a broken wall, her suit hissing where the seal had cracked, her eyes wide and searching in the dim light. Violet eyes, eyes I had not seen in 20 years, eyes I told myself I had forgotten. She looked at me, and her whole body went still, as if the universe itself had paused to let her breathe. Then she smiled, and the words that left her lips shattered every wall I had built around my heart. I finally found you, human. My name left my throat before I even decided to speak it. Elena. She laughed, and it was the same laugh from 20 years ago, the one that used to echo through the tunnels beneath our old colony, the one I had spent 2 decades convincing myself I imagined. I pulled her suit seal tight, sealed the leak with a patch from my kit, and half-carried her back through the corridor as alarms on her ship began to scream even louder behind us. We barely made it back to my ship before the wreck behind us shuddered and split apart, debris scattering into the dark like broken glass thrown across a black floor. Inside my cabin, with the environment stabilized and her breathing steady again, she finally spoke, her voice shaking, but full of something I had never expected to feel again: relief. She told me she was not human. She never had been. Her people, called the Varen, had a gift for blending into other worlds, appearing exactly like the people around them, while quietly observing life from within. She had lived among us as a child, not to deceive, but to learn, because her people believed that watching children grow, laugh, argue, and forgive taught more truth about a species than any report ever could. The night she vanished from our colony was not abandonment. It was survival. Her people had detected an incoming raider fleet, the kind that stripped colonies bare and vanished before help ever arrived. She told me she had fought her own parents, screaming that she would not leave without saying goodbye to me, until they had no choice but to carry her onto the evacuation shuttle by force. For 20 years, she said, she searched. Every colony record, every census, every face in every crowd that might have belonged to the boy she left behind. I did not have time to answer her, because the ship's proximity alarm shattered the moment, flashing bright red across every screen in the cabin. 3 vessels, raiders, closing fast. Elena's eyes sharpened instantly, all softness gone, replaced by something focused and fierce. She said the ship behind us had been attacked hours earlier by the same fleet, and they were not finished. They wanted her alive, because Varen technology was worth more than any cargo they could steal. I threw myself into the pilot seat, engines roaring to life beneath my hands, the ship lurching forward as the first shot streaked past our hull, close enough to rattle the windows. Elena moved beside me without hesitation, her hands flying across the console, adjusting power routing, boosting shields, her fingers moving with a precision that told me this was not her first fight. "Get us through the debris field," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around us. "They are fast, but their scanners are not built for wreckage this dense." I trusted her without question, 20 years of separation vanishing in an instant, replaced by the same unspoken understanding we had shared as children, when we used to finish each other's sentences before either of us finished a thought. I pushed the ship into a sharp dive, weaving between broken hulls and shattered satellites, my hands steady despite the sweat forming on my brow. Behind us, the raider ships followed, weapons fire lighting up the dark in flashes of orange and white, each blast close enough to shake the frame of my ship. Elena called out directions, guiding me through gaps in the wreckage that I would never have found alone, her memory of the field sharper than any scanner could offer. We twisted between a collapsed freighter and a broken satellite tower, sparks flying as our hulls scraped against jagged metal, the ship groaning under the strain. One of the raider ships broke off, trying to flank us from the side, cutting through an open gap in the debris. Elena's hands moved fast, rerouting power to the rear thrusters, giving us a burst of speed that threw us both back into our seats. "Hold on," she shouted, and I gripped the controls tighter, guiding the ship through a narrow corridor of wreckage barely wide enough to fit through. The flanking ship, moving too fast to adjust, clipped the edge of a broken hull and spun out of control, tumbling away into the dark. One down, two remained, closing in fast, weapons charging for another volley. Elena's voice cut through the tension, calm but urgent. "There is a collapsed reactor core ahead, still unstable. If we pull them close enough before we clear it, the residual energy should scatter their scanners long enough for us to break away completely." It was a dangerous plan, but I had learned long ago that Elena's plans, even as a child, always worked, because she thought 3 steps ahead of everyone else. I angled the ship toward the dead reactor core, the raiders following close behind, confident and reckless, closing the gap between us. At the last possible second, Elena rerouted our shields to absorb the coming energy spike, and I pulled the ship into a tight turn, just as we crossed the edge of the reactor's field. The world outside lit up in a wave of blinding light, energy rippling outward, washing over the raider ships behind us. Their systems flickered and dimmed, weapons falling silent, engines stuttering as the energy pulse disrupted everything in its path. I did not slow down. I pushed the engines harder, guiding us out of the debris field and into open space, leaving the disabled raider ships drifting helplessly behind us. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The cabin was silent, except for the soft hum of the engines and the sound of our own breathing, slowly steadying after the chaos. Elena turned to look at me, her violet eyes softer now, filled with something that looked like relief, and something deeper that I recognized instantly, because it matched exactly what I felt in my own chest. 20 years, she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. I counted every single one of them. I reached over and took her hand, the same way I used to when we were children running through the tunnels of our old colony, laughing at nothing, dreaming about everything. I never stopped looking either, I said. I just did not know what I was looking for until now. She smiled, and for the first time in 20 years, that smile did not feel like a memory. It felt real, warm, and permanent, filling a space inside me that had been empty for far too long. Outside the viewport, the stars stretched endlessly ahead of us, calm and quiet after the storm we had just survived. Elena leaned her head against my shoulder, and I did not pull away. We had both spent 2 decades searching, in different ways, across different worlds, carrying pieces of a promise we made as children, under a sky full of scattered stars. Somehow, against every impossible odd, that promise had found its way back to us. I did not know what waited ahead, whether more raiders would come, whether her people would ever fully explain the years we had lost, or whether the galaxy itself would try to pull us apart again. But for the first time in a long time, none of that frightened me. Because sitting there, with her hand in mine, watching the stars drift quietly past our window, I finally understood what she meant the moment she said those words back on that broken ship. She had not just found a friend from her childhood, she had found the one person she refused to stop searching for, no matter how many years or how many stars stood between us. And I intended to make sure she never had to search again.